The old bookshop on Maple Street had always been Maya's sanctuary. Between the towering shelves of worn paperbacks and the soft amber glow of vintage lamps, she found peace that the outside world rarely offered. Tonight was no different, except for the strange pull she felt toward the mythology section. Her fingers traced the spine of an ancient leather-bound book about werewolf legends. The shop was closed, but as the owner's niece, Maya had her own key. She often came here after her shifts at the diner, seeking solitude among the stories that understood her better than people did. A soft chime from the front door made her freeze. She had locked it behind her, hadn't she? "We're closed," she called out, her voice echoing in the quiet space. Footsteps approached, measured and deliberate. Maya's heart quickened as a figure emerged from between the shelves. He was tall, with dark hair that seemed to catch the lamplight, and eyes that held depths she couldn't quite read. Something about him made her breath catch, not from fear, but from an inexplicable recognition. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low and careful. "I saw the light and thought I was looking for a specific book." Maya studied his face. There was something familiar about the curve of his jaw, the way he held himself with quiet strength. "What book?" "Legends of the Northern Wolves." He paused, watching her reaction. "It's quite old. Probably not something most bookshops would carry." Maya's fingers tightened on the very book she'd been holding. The coincidence sent a shiver down her spine. "This one?" His eyes widened slightly. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them seemed charged with unspoken understanding. "I'm Ethan," he said finally. "Maya." She stepped closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. "How did you get in? I'm sure I locked the door." A shadow crossed his features. "Sometimes doors open for those who need them to." It wasn't really an answer, but Maya found herself nodding anyway. There was something about Ethan that made impossible things seem perfectly reasonable. They stood there in the soft light, the book between them like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. "Do you believe in them?" Ethan asked suddenly. "Werewolves?" Maya considered the question seriously. A month ago, she would have laughed. But lately she'd been having dreams of running through forests under the full moon, of a freedom she'd never known in waking life, dreams of amber eyes that looked exactly like Ethan's. "I think," she said slowly, "that there are more mysteries in the world than we're willing to admit." Something in Ethan's posture relaxed. He moved closer, and Maya caught a scent, like pine trees and wild wind. It stirred memories she didn't know she had. "Maya," he said, and her name on his lips sounded like coming home. "There's something I need to tell you about why I'm really here." She waited, her heart beating in rhythm with some ancient drum. She couldn't hear, but somehow felt. "3 months ago, I started having dreams," Ethan continued. "Dreams of a woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. Dreams of someone who would understand what I am, even when I couldn't understand it myself." Maya's breath caught. "What you are." Ethan looked toward the window, where the moon hung full and bright. "My family, we're different. We've always been different. Every generation, one of us is chosen to carry the responsibility of protecting others, to walk between the human world and something wilder." The pieces began to fall into place. The dreams, the strange pull she'd felt toward werewolf mythology, the way Ethan seemed to belong in her life, despite them having just met. "You're telling me you're a werewolf," Maya said quietly. "I'm telling you, I'm someone who's spent his whole life feeling like he was waiting for someone. And then I walked into this bookshop tonight and found you holding the exact book I've been searching for, and suddenly everything made sense." Maya set the book down on a nearby table. Her hands were trembling, but not from fear, from recognition, from the understanding that her dreams hadn't been dreams at all, but glimpses of a truth she'd been too afraid to acknowledge. "In my dreams," she whispered, "I'm running through forests I've never seen, but somehow know by heart, and there's always someone running beside me, someone I can never quite see clearly, but who feels like home." Ethan's eyes brightened. Someone with amber eyes. Someone with amber eyes. They stood facing each other in the lamplight, two souls who had been searching without knowing what they were looking for. The weight of unspoken possibilities hung between them. "Maya," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper, "what if I told you that some people are born to be part of two worlds, that some people have wolf hearts even if they don't have wolf bodies?" She thought of her dreams, of the way she'd always felt most at peace in wild places, of how she'd spent her whole life feeling like she was meant for something more than the ordinary world offered. "I'd say that explains a lot," she admitted. Ethan smiled then, really smiled, and Maya saw the wild freedom she'd been dreaming of reflected in his face. "The legends say that every alpha finds their mate in their own time," he said. "That when two souls are meant to be together, the universe conspires to bring them home to each other." Maya picked up the book again, opening it to a page that seemed to find itself. There, in faded ink, was an illustration of two figures running beneath the moon. The woman's face looked remarkably like her own. "Will this alpha werewolf love me?" she asked, echoing the question that had been living in her heart without her even knowing it. Ethan stepped forward and gently took her hands. His touch was warm, grounding, and electric all at once. "This alpha werewolf," he said, his amber eyes holding hers, "has been loving you since before he knew your name, since the first dream, the first howl at the moon that felt like calling. Your name." Outside, the moon reached its peak, casting silver light through the bookshop windows. Maya felt something shift inside her, like a door opening to a room she'd always known was there, but had never dared to enter. "What happens now?" she asked. Ethan squeezed her hands gently. "Now we learn to run together, in dreams and in waking, in this world and in the wild spaces between worlds. Now we discover what it means to be home." Maya looked around the bookshop, at the place that had always been her sanctuary, and realized it had been preparing her all along. Every story she'd read, every quiet evening among the books, had been leading her to this moment, to this man, to this understanding of who she was meant to be. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes. Yes, I want to learn to run with you. Yes, I want to discover what home means. Yes, I believe that some doors open for those who need them to." Ethan lifted their joined hands and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "Then we have all the time in the world to figure out the rest." Outside, the moon smiled down on Maple Street, where two hearts had finally found their way to each other, guided by dreams and legends and the unshakable truth that some loves are written in the stars themselves.